and that's the thing. Like the first two feature films that I have, all shot on a Canon Vixia G20.
There you go.
That's it. It's a tiny. It's a handy cam. I mean, you can't even really. That model is so outdated. They've been upgrading it ever since, but it's just all it is a handy cam. You know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, my first couple of shorts were shot on something similar, and I can't actually have them online today because the quality of the picture is just not good enough. You know what I mean? It's like it looks like it was shot on VHS, but probably not as good. You know, because it was shot back, early 2000s maybe.
Wow. Was that mini DV tapes? One of those cameras?
I think so. I think we had to transfer over. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's crazy because it just pisses me off that now I can't use that footage for much,
Oh yeah.
But what are you going to do? It wasn't even in HD, back then. So that's the problem.
Yeah, I went back to one of my old movies. What was it? High Hopes, and we shot that on Super VHS, and we had a Panasonic 3-chip Super. I mean, it was not a cheap camera. I mean, I think that thing was like 15 grand with the guy that bought it. And it was people mistook it for a Betacam. That's how big it was. And so we bought these really expensive Super VHS tapes. And when I edited, I went through, we dumped everything onto standard VHS. We just took, and all of the tapes were only a half an hour. So we only bought 30-minute tapes. And I think we bought a case of 12 and dumped those over to a VHS, to regular VHS. And then I logged everything, every cut, so that way I wasn't back and forth. I knew exactly what the time codes were. I was fast forwarding. Then I took those tapes literally only got like maybe 5 runs complete out of them. And then I went back and dumped them all to mini DV, and then took those mini DVs and dumped them into the computer, and I went back and I recut the movie.
Whoa. With that many transfers, like I can't imagine what it would do to the quality even of
didn't do anything. Video. It was
really
still gorgeous. I mean,
wow.
The quality off, because the Super VHS tapes we bought were the steel tapes. They weren't, the standard VHS. I think we bought them. It was like $250 for a case of 12. So, I mean, these weren't like cheap. It was Sony Super VHS, but it was metal tape. So the quality of that, when I dumped it to the mini DV, it was direct. And so
I remember those tapes. They were heavy, right?
Yeah.
The tapes. They had like a weight to them.
What, the Super VHS tapes?
Yeah, just holding the tape. It was heavier than the normal tape. I remember that. Yeah.
It was quite a few extra ounces than a standard, even like a 2-hour VHS. But I didn't lose any quality on there. And then when I was able to, do color correction, and I didn't really have to do a whole lot of that either, because we would white balance in the camera, and literally everything, almost everything matched. So, I mean, when I was cutting it together, originally cutting it together, it was very, everything matched. So we didn't have any color issues. So when I was able to go in there and make some adjustments to stuff, it looked even better. But we didn't lose anything to speak of. It was one of those things that when I got it done and showed it to my buddy who was the DP on that. And that's actually the movie that I met him on when we both lived in California. And he was looking at it going, wow, this looks really good. He said, I didn't expect this to look that good. So
that's awesome.
It was pretty cool. Sorry, I got off on a little tangent there, but
I was
But-
just thinking, some people viewing these are just thinking now, how old are these fuckers?
Yeah.
What the hell is VHS?
What's beta tape? Beta
Oh
what?
my God. Yeah. Yeah. Betacam. That's funny. So, so did you, Tim, did you start accumulating? I know when I started doing this, I mean, I'm at the point now where I'm literally self-contained. I don't have to rent anything as far as equipment goes. I mean, have you like, kind of obtained equipment as you've gone? Do you have stuff, or do you still rent stuff, or how do you?
I have a lot of equipment. I have, obviously a drone, a camera, a couple of smaller cameras, lighting, things like that. But I still, every once in a while, I still rent stuff because I want to try. I like to test new equipment out and see how it works.
Mm-hmm.
And I really like to just play with what's out there and see what I can do with it. Like there's a camera that's coming out. I don't know if you guys heard about it. It's called the DJI Ronin something. It's like a gimbal camera.
Yep.
All right. So this thing looks amazing. I know there's still a lot of bugs in it, but I think that's probably going to be my next purchase as a solid camera that I use. Just because, I've already got stable hands. A lot of the movies that you saw that I did, like the features, that was all handheld. I did that, because I've got, they say I have gimbal hands, and I'm like, it's just, I don't drink a lot of coffee, so it's fine. So, I just always had steady hands, but sometimes it's that thing. It's like, I want to be able to run and chase people with that thing. I want to be able to sit in the back of the car, and if I need to shoot a chase scene with that, that thing looks amazing. It's a game changer. So yeah, I'll rent equipment, but that's probably going to be my next purchase, camera wise. So.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So, as far as like lighting and stuff like that, have you gotten C-stands? Do you have stuff like that?
Yep. Yeah. I got C-stands. I've got, not a lot of the newer lighting equipment. Most of my stuff is pretty standard lighting, but I have a ton of gels that I use. So like an entire collection of gels.
Mm-hmm.
So lighting, I'm obviously not, I don't consider myself an expert in lighting, but I do what I can to make it look just the way it needs to be.
Yeah.
So
very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a lot of stuff. I think there's a lot of filmmakers that don't learn how to do everything. Back before I was back when I was a fan of James Cameron, I'm no longer a fan of James Cameron.
I understand that. I completely relate.
Yeah. Did James Cameron try to run you down in a parking lot because he was late getting to the color timing of Titanic? Because if not, I have a completely different reason. Yeah.
This sounds like a really good story.
Okay. I'll give you the revised version. He, when I lived in California, I worked downtown Hollywood. I worked at a place called Hollywood Digital. And at Hollywood Digital, it was a huge post-production facility. And we got in the color time, or the film color, the color timing, excuse me, let me back up. We got the color timing job for Titanic. And so basically, the film was brought in under armed guard in a armored truck and brought in. And while I was checking the film in, it was I had these two guys standing over my shoulders watching me enter this film into our computer, and then they walked it back to the telecine bay, which is where they did all the color timing and color correction and all that stuff. So anyway, so he was there for a week, and we had to listen to this fucking douchebag for a week, yelling and screaming on either whether he was on the phone or he was yelling at the colorist or anything like that. Well, one of the days I worked on the overnight crew. And when that film got checked in, I had to actually come in early to do that because they didn't want because I was in charge of the overnight dailies. I was the overnight daily supervisor. And so I had to, my boss called me and he says, "Hey man," he says, "Cameron's bringing Titanic." He said, can you come in and check the film in? Because I don't trust any of the other guys to do it. So anyway, so then down the road, because I would always come in at like 8 or 9 o'clock at night and then leave sometimes as late as 11:30 in the morning the next day. And I happened to get out early that day, and I was going out to the parking lot to go home. And he comes screaming around the corner in his black Humvee that Schwarzenegger gave him. And literally, I mean, I was already walking and he comes screaming around the corner, didn't even slow down. I literally had to jump out of the way to keep from getting hit by him. And that's the shortened version of my James Cameron story. And it is, I have lost, it sucked because, you know, everybody was like, "Oh gosh, I wish I could meet this person," or "Gosh, I wish I could meet this person." You kind of want to not go that route just because, you know, having worked in Hollywood myself, you are let down multiple times on things, with the exception of Tom Hanks. My Tom Hanks story is pretty good. I'll tell that another day. But everybody is, you know, that just crushed me. That absolutely crushed me. My point now to the whole thing was that was one thing that Cameron did coming up, was learned everything. And I think one of the biggest problems that we have these days within the indie film community is not everybody learns everything. Not everybody learns how to run the camera. Not everybody learns about the lighting. Not everybody, you know, I think that was one thing that I learned from him, well, that I still bring with me, is the fact that I learn everything. I learn how you get a new camera, you dissect that whole fucking thing just to make sure you know exactly what it does, everything that it does. Yeah. And it sounds like, Tim, you're the exact same way within that.
I dissect every aspect of every film that I have to work on. If there's something I don't know about, I have to learn it, like sound design, post-production. I mean, everything that I've done it's all me post-production, learning how it works, you know, and it's you just have to know this stuff, especially as a director. You just have to know how to, even if down the road, you're going to be with tons of people on a set and everybody's doing millions of different jobs. Good directors know when or how to talk to people and communicate. And if they have to do their job for them, they can, like, jump in. You know, I think that's good leadership, is just to know every position possible. So,
I mean, even to the smallest thing of where a sandbag goes on a C-stand, you know,
every little detail.
Yep. Exactly.
But that you learn when you start getting into productions, whether you like it or not, you know, because you learn from making the mistake of putting it in the wrong place,
right?
Which I've seen people do.
Well, but on top of that, there are guys that are out there now that don't even know how to operate a camera.
Right.
You know, I mean,
I'm one of them. I'm one of them. I have no problem with that.
Learn how to.
I disagree with what you guys are saying. I disagree with you guys on this, at least partially. They're all fantastic skills to have, right? But if you don't have them, you don't have them.
Right.
You know what I mean? I started writing, directing, what might be considered a fairly sort of older age. And for me to get to being an artistic but not technical person, anything technical was, it's hard to say like it was too hard, but it would have required a lot of my time to learn how to do these things when I preferred to put my time into writing scripts. So when I tried to learn these things, I could say editing, right? I learned how to edit, and while I was editing, everything was fine. But then I went and I worked on a script for, I don't know, 3 months. And when I went back to edit something, I could not remember a thing. Which button does what, how to do it, because my mind doesn't work in that way. I am not technical at all, zero. So for me to learn about cameras and to learn to edit and to learn the technical stuff would be borderline stupid, because I can't do it. It's just not me. You know, my brain doesn't work in that way. And if I try, especially at this age, if I would have done it when I was, 17, maybe that would have been a different story.
Well, I guess that's what I'm saying, minus, because I mean, it's like some can't teach an old dog new tricks. And that's true.
But it's not even that. I'll tell you the story of when I went into film school. I actually wanted to learn how to do all these things. So there was a whole situation where you can do a prep year to teach you how to do this stuff. And then you can do the bachelor's degree where they teach you how to do all this stuff. And when I went to the university and applied there, the person in charge of that prep year saw a film that I made earlier, the short film that I made as a hobby, and he called me in to talk to me about it. And because I think he was suspicious. He thought maybe I didn't make it or something like that. So he asked me all these questions. I answered everything. And then he said to me, why do you want to do the prep year? And I said, I want to learn how to work a camera. I want to learn how to edit. I want to learn how to do all these things. He said to me, what do you want to do? What part of filmmaking do you want to concentrate on? What do you want to do? I said, I want to be a writer director. That's what I do. That's what I want to do. And he said, then while they're good skills to have, you will be wasting at least a year of your time, because with the way you handled your first film, you don't have to know how to do these things. You can get people to do those while you do other things. So you already, you're going to lose a year.
Right.
He said to me, at your age, I was 35 or 36 at the time. And he said to me, at your age, do you want to waste another year, or do you want to just jump into, making films and all the rest of it? And this was while I was applying for the bachelor's degree. When I went when he said, I'm recommending you go into the bachelor's degree straight away without the prep year, I went to apply for that. And they said to me, hang on a second, you already have a bachelor's degree. It's in business. It's not in the arts or in film or anything. But they said, you can go straight into the master's degree if you want. And I said, but then I will not know how to do these things, camera and editing. And they came to me with the same thing. They said, look, we've seen the film you made before. Do you want to be an editor? Do you want to be a cinematographer? Or do you want to be a writer director? I said, I want to be a writer director. They said, look, we recommend you go straight into the master's and concentrate on those streams, which was mainly script writing.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Directing you can't teach. You learn it as you go, as you do it. So that was my situation. And today, when people come to me, I went straight into the master's degree, and that's it. I didn't do the bachelor's. I didn't do the prep year and all of that. I never learned how to do these things. And people come to me today and they go to me, I'm 40 years old, am I too old to get started in directing and all the rest of it? Because I need to learn how to use a camera. I need to learn how to edit. I need to learn how to post-production. I need to learn how to do all this stuff. And I'm like, no, you don't. It's good to know, but you don't have to. Depends. Right. You want to be an editor? Yeah. If you want to be an editor, you have to learn how to do this shit, If you want to be a cinematographer, of course you have to learn it. But if you want to be a writer director, you don't have to be, what do they call it? Sort of, like a master of all these crafts. You just need to know what you need to know. You have to get other people on board to help you do these things, which is something I recommend anyway. I recommend to most directors not to shoot their own films, but to get a cinematographer. Yeah. I don't know about this. You guys could tell me, because it's also recommended that you don't edit your own films, even if you can. I'm not sure about that one.
It's very, I mean, that is honestly, with that advice, you are setting yourself up for a good position in the industry, because that is how things really work.
That's what I was told. But
and that's, you do, because film is a collaborative process, and it kind of is the right way to do things. And obviously I've broken every rule in the handbook because I'm nuts.
I don't
Because
think so. I'm jealous of
well,
you guys, because if I had the skills that you guys have, I would be further along right now.
it comes
You know
with a
what I mean?
price.
Absolutely.
It comes with
Yeah.
psychotic.
Either way, yeah.
Yeah,
Lack
I
of
mean,
sleep.
I'll give you a
Mhm.
perfect example of something. And this is honestly perfect because I didn't know if you guys were going to talk about Born of Malice or not. That's this project that I'm working on coming up.
The next TIM Novotny feature.
Well, it's not a feature, and that's what I wanted to
Oh,
talk
it's
to you
not
guys
now?
about. No,
No.
here's what it is. So this started because of how I was programmed. Because I was programmed to believe, yeah, I'm just a filmmaker. Everything that I do has to be film. Everything has to be related to film. Everything is film related. So I started working on this film, and we've shot pretty much a big bulk of it. And halfway through the process, I went through multiple cinematographers, and something about it was wrong. And here was the problem. The story for me, the way it was scripted, was not everything that I wanted to say. It was not everything that I wanted to put into the story. And I just felt like something was wrong. I'm like, is this even supposed to, what is this supposed to be? And then there was this other issue of, I like to I'm very visual with what I do. You know, I found out and discovered that I cannot star in something and direct it. I cannot pull a Mel Gibson at all. That is something I could never, ever do again. But that wasn't really the big issue, but that was just one of my problems with this. It was just the story. Something was very wrong with the story. And I was like, this is not what I want to tell. It's not giving all the details to this character. So I started just writing stuff down one day, and it was about this. I was like, here's the story of this, and what am I missing? And then like 3 chapters later, I realized I was writing a novel. I was writing a novel, and that was something that I wanted to go back into. And I was like, well, you've always wanted to publish a book. And then I was like, this was supposed to be a book. This was never supposed to be a film. This was supposed to be a book, but there is still a film attached to it. I mean, it's about 50 some minutes right now, obviously, which will be released right about the time the book is published. So it's kind of a 2-part media project in a way. So cool. That's what it ended up with. And that's something that I had to come to terms with was, I always avoided the term artist. I never felt that I was worthy enough or just in the right mind space to call myself an artist. And I never wanted to. I always thought it was pretentious. I thought it would be a dick for doing it, all this other crap. And somebody told me recently, they're like, well, you've never really been entirely a filmmaker. You've never been entirely an actor. You are legitimately an artist, and it doesn't matter what you do, you're creating something that is art. And I thought about it for a minute, and I was like, gosh, shit, why do I have to be an artist? It's terrible, like, why does this have to be me, And then it was kind of like one of those self-acceptance things. I'm like, oh, well, this is the way it is now, and I still struggle with it.
Well, you don't have to say it.
Things.
You let everybody else say it, and you can still in your head go, I'm not an artist. I'm not an artist. I'm not an artist.
Oh, I do every day.
Of course you are. But of course you're an artist. I think the other way. I think you should actually call yourself an artist. You should tell yourself, I'm an artist, because I think to be a good filmmaker and a good musician and a good actor, you have to be an artist. If you're not an artist, and I've seen people who do this and they're not artists. And a lot of the times I also say they're not filmmakers. Right. They're people who make films, but they're not really filmmakers. Right. Because to be a filmmaker, you need to have that artistic aspect, whether it's in the writing, whether it's in the visual, or both, or all aspects, Not every film has to be an artistic, film. Right. It can be any type of film. It could be a comedy, a horror, whatever, but there's still an element of art, in there. It starts with the writing, but it keeps going with everything else. I don't think artist is a dirty word. I think it's more about once you finally sort of come to a point where you're comfortable with who you are and you know yourself well enough, which a lot of us don't, you could sort of go, fuck, I am an artist. I can't fight it. You know,
Yeah.
I think in terms of art, you know, and you must, because the music side of things is a hell of an addition to, you know, to the visual side with, you know, with filmmaking.
Yeah.
So I don't think there's any way that you're not, you know.
Yeah. And it's not that I don't disagree with it. It's just like with what people are saying, it's more of a, it's just kind of a denial with a life. It's like a denial of that lifestyle because I know what it entails. And
you don't have to live the lifestyle
yeah.
of an artist. You just am. I don't live like an artist. I live like any other person, and you know, and I still think of me in those terms.
Yeah.
But I don't give a shit about what people think. People can think whatever the fuck they want. I don't
exactly.
care.
Yeah.
And they do.
Mm. Exactly.
That's on them, not on me, you know.
Yep.
And you can't put that on you either, you know.
No. Yeah.
Well, I
but
mean,
it is kind of a
no, go ahead, Tim. Go ahead.
Yeah. I mean, it's a daunting process too. Just like you have to separate different states of mind in order to do certain things. And then like the situation with Born of Malice, I wish I had realized early in the game that was supposed to be a book, because when you're developing a story like that and you have all these key elements and it's just like, I can't fit this into 2 hours or even 80 minutes or something like that. It's just not enough, and not enough is being said. There's ways to make it work, but it's still not going to be enough. And it wasn't decided. It's like the story of Frankenstein. I mean, you guys are familiar. You guys read the book Frankenstein, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
So Frankenstein is a huge story with so many elements that I have never, ever seen anyone successfully, at least me not personally, fit that into a feature film. Kenneth Branagh or whatever, he tried to do it and it came off over the top and kind of silly, right?
Melodramatic, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it was, but it's like that kind of thing can be converted into a web or either a web series or television series because of the length of it and all the detail. And some things just fit. Some things just fit. Some things fit better with certain mediums, and that's just the way it needs to be, you know. So that was one of those situations where I made kind of a jump conclusion because I was so focused on film and I didn't even think about writing. And I was like, oh, okay, different art for it fits into different mediums. You know what I mean?
But it's just another thing that you can add to the list, you know, author.
Right.
Like I would never call myself an author. I call myself a writer because I don't write books.
Yeah.
So, you know.
Right.
I wish I could. It just seems like such a long process to me. Even longer than a script, which is, you know.
It's kind of the same, but it's very OCD. I'm slightly OCD with stuff, so maybe that's why it was like, oh wait, it's 3:30 in the morning, and what happened to the day? You know,
more like it's 6 o'clock in the morning, and what the hell happened to my sleep?
I forget sleep all the time.
Relate.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
that's why I'm so suntanned.
Studio tan.
That's why I reflect light. You know, it's like, what are you gonna do?
Yeah, you reflect a lot of light there, pal.
A lot.
Wow.
I should start doing these with a wig.
Yeah, there you go. We should get some
and a hat.
You should get some of that tanning lotion to put on your face and whatnot. It's pretty funny. Well, okay.
It's okay. Tim doesn't mind that. He likes vampires and stuff.
Yeah,
there you go.
That's cool.
There you go.
We're all part of the same club.
So doing this book, I actually, as a wannabe author, I had several projects that somebody had told me, why don't you just turn them into books? Because if you turn them into books, then at least you get that out of your head, and then it's on paper. So I'm going to ask this as a severely novice who wants, literally, I have 5 books I want to write. how did you delve into getting that done and being able to write? Because I have a really problem with detail, and I know that books are very detailed. How did you wrap your mind around being able to execute with the kind of detail that you need in a novel?
Well, first you have to think about how the story is being written. So are you writing it from a first person perspective, a third person perspective where you're describing everything? Are you omniscient while you're writing that book? It's all about which perspective you're going with when the whole story is there, because it's from that narrative. So obviously, you're going to have a lot of detail, and especially like if you're portraying it from a character, obviously everything in his world, from his psychology to what he sees or how he sees the world, that's everything you want to describe. You want to get inside the head of that character. Now, if you're the third person, and you're just telling the story of all of these characters, then obviously you're going to go into way more detail, and you're just telling their, what you would see as a third person perspective. And it just depends on how deep you want to go with what you're writing and how you're going to write it from which perspective. You know what I mean? So, are any of your stories?
Whose POV, in other words?
Yeah, basically, because every story is written different. I mean, like we talked about Frankenstein. The book Frankenstein was written through multiple perspectives. You've got Victor Frankenstein's perspective. You've got these other people that are family members' perspective. You've got the doctors, I mean, Mary Shelley was telling a story from different angles. So that was kind of a unique construct. I mean, there was a book that Clive Barker just had called Mr. Begone, which was about a demon that was rolled up into a printing press back when they had printing presses and the book was possessed. So he's writing about that the demon was the book and it was telling its story, So it just depends on which perspective you want to use when you tell that story and write that book. And that's going to determine how much detail you want in that world and how you want to, like, specific things you will describe that you want the audience to build. And if you want to leave some to the imagination, then you just leave those little details out, So there's a lot of control with writing that you have.
And how long did that take you, and how many pages did you wind up with?
For Born of Malice, it was already a script, and it felt like an unfinished story. And I was just not happy with it. And it was like, there's more going on here. I'm not getting the things that I want in this film. The script isn't enough. So it's from a POV. It was first person, obviously, and it's from this character. And I think that the featurette that's going to come out for Born of Malice is going to get more into who he is as a character rather than the actual story and plot of how he became the way he is. So it's just a different aspect of how it's being presented, because the story is like the book is going to be like every little detail that I wanted in there for the audience to follow along. The movie, the short film, I consider it a feature, and it's like 45 to 50 minutes. That's just very character based, and that's giving people an idea of who that character is and the concept basically of what he is. So there are two different sides of it, and one's a taste, one is a full meal.
So you're
actually going to use the film as a promo for the book rather than cool. Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, I was just going to ask the same thing. So
yeah, and the thing is, you've completed shooting, and you're not shooting anymore. And
that's right.
My next question would be: do you have more footage though? Because my advice, and I think Todd might agree with me on this, is push it to a feature. From my experience, possibly from Todd's as well, features you would have a more sort of complete product that you can actually market. If you have like a 40-minute, as you say, featurette, it might be a bit more of a struggle. But if you push it just a little bit past an hour, it's now considered a feature, by sort of streaming standards, let's call it. So you'll be able to, release that and get that on multiple platforms and all the rest of it. So
there is something
my
that
advice would be to go that way.
That's what there was another consideration that I had, because there is a new technology that I've been working with that might enhance that and give it that opportunity. I don't know if you guys are familiar with the Unreal Engine.
Yes, I was looking at that just the other day. Yeah.
I have that, and I've been working with that a lot. So using what I have from that might be able to extend it into a feature, just with some of the things that are in there.
What is that?
Okay, so do you remember a video game called Unreal Tournament back in the early 2000s, late 90s? It's a big video game at the time. So
I'm not big into gaming, so never heard of it.
Epic Mega Games, they actually stole this from id Software. It was technology that was for the first-person shooter, and ever since then they've been developing this platform, which is from video games, but a lot of films, like there's even videos out there how this is going to become the new filmmaking method. Like a lot of companies are using this not just for CGI, but just to create real movies out of this technology. And it's very fascinating just how detailed they've gotten. But it's kind of a animated opportunity to create your own film from your computer with everything. So it's pretty fascinating. It's just one of the modern advancements in AI that I was even astounded by when I heard about it. So, and then I have it now, and it's like, this is kind of interesting. How does this work? So learning how to use it's very difficult.
Now, is it a program or is it?
Yeah. It's like an editing program, but for digital editing. So you're doing 3D renders of landscapes, characters. I mean, you're creating your own world, which is amazing. I mean, for me, it's amazing, obviously, because that's like, I can just do everything with this program and create my own worlds with my own stories and everything like that. So for me, it's exciting. I just have to figure out how to completely use it. Right. Because it's a pain in the ass. But it's just one of those modern advancements in technology that I'm very excited about and look forward to mastering and learning how to use for future projects down the road.
Now, is that in Real or Unreal or
Unreal? It's called the Unreal Engine, and you'll find a lot of YouTube videos about it.
Also on their website. They have a website that is just dedicated to everything that we just talked about.
UnrealEngine.com. Hey, there we go.
Yeah.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, I came upon it purely by accident. I was actually looking at something else. Yeah. I've never heard of this before. I was like, what the hell? Where did that come from?
Wow.
Yeah.
So. Okay. I might no.
I have to go
now. Wow.
Yeah.
That's sick.
Yeah, that's how I felt. I was like, when did this become available technology? When and I was like, okay, I have to look more deeply into it to see how it actually works and what it looks like. But yeah, it did sound very exciting just from reading on it. I was like, holy crap.
And it's free. You can download it. Stop playing with it. Yeah.
Wow.
True that.
How much, I'm not going to sit here and waste your guys' time going through this myself, but what is so it's free, but then do they have like a purchase version?
Well, I don't know about that. I know that the software and the editing stuff is free, but I'm pretty sure you would have to purchase things like textures or formats and things like that, obviously, but you can get a lot of those from anywhere. And if you're really one of the bugger type of people or hacker kind of people, you can probably get stuff off of video games and rip their texture packs and use those too. But
gotcha.
Not going to say anything else about that.
We're not condoning taking anything from anybody else.
No way.
but
We wouldn't even know how.
Yeah. Yeah.
well,
So
But rolling things back a bit, there was one film that I wanted to talk about that we haven't really touched on, and that is Pharisee. We talked about a little bit about vampires and about this was your second feature
film.
Yeah, and there is an element of the theatrical about it,
Yeah.
but probably less so than other films. Like it's not as felt. It's more sort of, if you get into it, it's like somebody asked me to describe it, like what is it about, and I said it's kind of like a vampire's lament.
Yeah. It's kind of.
There is that artistic element that we talked about.
Yeah, because I was aiming for something that was stylized like everything that I was watching in the 80s when it came to vampire movies, like Near Dark, or even I think Martin was kind of an influence too. It was a combination of things, because I didn't want it to take place in the 80s, but I wanted it to be styled after how I felt the 80s was. But it's not necessarily, because it's a vampire film, obviously, but the whole question that is always circulating when people ask me about that movie was he really a vampire, or was he just crazy? And that's a question that I will never answer, but I do have the answer to. Because it's one of those things, because everybody's like, well, what was he? Was he just I'm like, no, I know the answer, and I'm going to let you come to your own conclusion about it, because it is what you kind of think it is, but it's not, because there's very subtle elements. If you notice, he's not supernatural really in a lot of aspects, even though there are some elements of the film that are supernatural that go into maybe how he became that way or how he was led up to that. But I wanted a character that was just a big, violent question mark at the end of the day. And that's what it came down to, because I didn't want people to know what he was, because nobody in his world, even the character that he developed this romantic interest with, because they're both obviously homicidal psychotics. I mean, the whole movie's kind of about toxic relationships at the end of the day. That's what I was going for. But it's I just wanted that character to be an anomaly and something that people could not fully understand, and just see bits and pieces of an assumption. But that's all I wanted it to be. But I have the answer to that. I can't answer it.
Yeah, in different parts of the movie, you kind of take the viewer one way, and then you take them another. And the beautiful thing about that is that it goes that way and that way, but they're not inconsistent as such,
Yeah.
Some films you go, well, they showed us this, so how can it be that? And it's like, well, in this case, it's not so.
Well, one thing is for sure, he
white.
was drinking blood. Yes, that was all very legit. Yeah. So that says a little bit of something there. So
yeah, the thing that you're talking about, the relationship, to me, the one thing that kind of popped to mind as I was watching it, even though there wasn't really that much similarity, was Natural Born Killers. When I was watching it, I was like, okay, cool. That was
a subtle influence, and the collaborator with that was the lead actor. Like, his influence was Only Lovers Left Alive and Sid and Nancy. And mine were Martin and Natural Born Killers. And it was kind of like we just went back and forth writing different scenes for the thing. And it kind of all just melded together into this anomaly of a character, and who he was, because he was basically just a guy that was dead inside. And I never called him a vampire. When people ask me if it's a vampire, I'm like, no, he's basically just a typical sanguinarian. Definition of sanguinarian: somebody who just drinks blood. There's a lot of people out there, different subcultures where, people are into that kind of thing, and they will drink blood. That's, like, because this character was kind of like Richard Ramirez, Richard Chase. I don't know if you guys know who Richard Chase is, the guy who killed his mother, drank her blood, and then
Okay. Yeah.
ate rats. Yeah. So there's a lot of different influences from things like that, and just kind of 80s vampire tropes. Because there were even people that said like, well, what kind of vampires, the critics are like, what kind of vampires use guns and knives to kill people? I'm like, well, he's not supernatural. So if you're not supernatural and you have a bloodthirst, how are you going to kill a bunch of guys that are coming after you with guns and you have this 6-shooter in your pocket? Like, what are you going to do? Obviously, you saw it in Near Dark. There's tons of vampire stuff out there with them using guns. I mean, it's like, that's realistically, if you're not supernatural and you have that ability to do these things, then you're going to just use full adrenaline and do what you have to do to get that blood. So that's kind of where I was coming from with that angle. Just wanted to make a very realistic vampire movie to an extent. So
interesting.
Cool.
Is that that wasn't one of the ones? That doesn't sound like one of the ones that you sent me, Itai.
I sent you the link. I did.
Yeah,
I did. Vile Prey and Pharisee. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Both.
Yeah. That's unfortunately, I have to say I didn't get to that one.
Yeah, we only got it yesterday, so that's cool.
Okay. Yeah.
I've seen it before, but yeah.
Yeah. I'm going to check that out. I'm going to check that out tomorrow when I get done with my shoot.
Yeah.
Sounds really interesting. So, well, is there anything else that we want to talk about? We've been going for 2 hours here.
Really?
As we do. Yeah,
I know.
And that's what we always say at the end. Really? That's why we cut episodes into 2 parts, because we tend to go, for a couple of hours talking about all kinds of stuff.
And it's always funny because Itai and I be like, well, I don't know if we're going to have enough, with this person. Are we going to have enough time? Are we going to be able to fill that 2 hours? And then all of a sudden we're like 2:20 into it. And we're like, holy shit, how did that happen?
And we never really tried to fill 2 hours. It just kind of naturally happened.
It just happened. We're just talking. Sometimes it happens. Sometimes I'm on the phone with people for 4 hours and I don't even realize it. We're having such a good time. So,
yeah, exactly. Is there anything else you want to talk about?
I think we covered everything, didn't we?
It was really interesting learning about Born of Malice, because there's a lot of stuff that you just brought that I had no idea was going on in the background at the moment. So, but of the recent ones, we discussed Brimstone and St. Gabriel. You want to tell us a little bit more about St. Gabriel, like when it's.
So that is something I have to drop too, because I know the absolute. So at the end of October, early November, it will be streaming on multiple platforms. I think it's Tubi, iTunes. I don't know about Hulu or not. I don't know what's going on, if that's one of them, but obviously Derek would know more. Amazon, maybe?
Because it's a series, right?
It's a series, yeah. What it is it's episodic, but the first 2 episodes are hour-long episodes. So that's what they're releasing first. So I know that it's supposed to be at the end of October, early November, somewhere in there. So they would have more information. I-71 Movies, St. Gabriel is the name of the series. So, and
you've been working with these guys for a long time.
Oh yeah.
Code 207.
Yeah, that was a 48-hour film, like the one I'm doing in a couple of weeks. That was my second one, and I hate 48-hour films. Nothing to knock 48. I don't know if you guys know what they are. If you guys heard of them,
yes.
So
I'm not a fan either.
It's basically 48 hours of no sleep and constant moving. So
yes, and arguing with people.
Exactly. So basic film set stuff,
Yeah. So hang on. So 48 hours. The first one you did was Sonny's Guest.
Yeah. Sonny's Guest.
That was a cool one.
That one was fun because I did that one without a script, and we just kind of pulled ideas out of thin air, and it came together as this thing. And
you can tell if you pay close enough attention that it's not scripted, but the concept is really cool, and it's like it gets there,
Yeah, because they give you, as you know, like they give you your genre and the line that you have to say and a murder weapon, like right the night, and at that night when you start shooting, so you only have 48 hours after that. So I just got everybody together. I'm like, okay, bunch of gangsters, got a guy in a trunk. They're going to go to this basement to kill him. And then all hell breaks loose. That's what's happening. All right, get all this stuff together and let's do this. All right, let's do it. You know.
So what was the weapon that you had?
Murder weapon was barbed wire, and that was the funniest part because I didn't want to just because everybody in the thing was wrapping it around a weapon, and I'm like, no, man, this is barbed wire. Barbed wire is cool. I'm like, we're gonna wrap it around this guy's face. And then Kevin's on there. He's like, you know what else we should do? He's like, we should staple it to his head too. Let's do that. And I'm like, all right, let's do it.
Because that was definitely a very, very cool look.
Yeah.
You know, the thing with the barbed wire with the it's got something over his eyes as well, kind of.
Yeah, I've always had this weird theme of using barbed wire on human bodies in my movies. I don't know what it is. It's just so cool looking. And I just keep doing it. So barbed wire is kind of like a constant motif slightly in stuff that I do. I can't explain it. I don't know. It just looks cool.
I'm just a fan of barbed wire.
Yeah. Keeps all the dogs and stuff out.
Just a fan.
I just like, you know, I got like 5 reels of it sitting in the backyard. I don't know what I'm going to do with it. Fine.
You see how much fake barbed wire I have reels of. I mean, there's stacks of it. And I'm like, I got to use this for something. You know, like, what am I going to do with it?
Where the hell did you get fake barbed wire?
You can get fake barbed wire on Amazon, and it's prop barbed wire. And so what I ended up doing, it comes in black because I guess it was used for like haunted houses or Halloween decoration, but it comes in these giant reels. So what I ended up doing was buying like tons of these things and I took like one afternoon and I was just spray painting it silver. You know, I'm like, this is going to be awesome for props, you know? So like
someday.
Yeah.
The barbed wire was fake, but the staple into the guy's head, not so much.
we'll let Jim, the actor, talk about that at some point, whether it was fake or not. That screaming was pretty real, but
because that was the same actor from Syndrome, right?
Yeah, Syndrome. Jim Roberts was a director that I've worked with before. He was like the first director I got into films with. Way back when we both went in college together. Our theater teacher was part of Stuart Gordon's theater troupe. So if you know who Stuart Gordon is, he did Reanimator, all those movies. So we all kind of just, but yeah, it was
very cool.
Mm-hmm.
Did anybody ever get to see Reanimator in the theater?
No, and you did.
I saw it on VHS.
Same.
Yeah, I had a girlfriend that worked at a movie theater, and I got to see that in the theater, but I got to see it without a big group of people. I mean, they would get movies in on like Sunday nights, and so the people that worked there, the guy that was the manager, he would make everybody sit down, and when they got the new movies in, they'd have to sit through them. And so she would call me up and she's like, hey, we got this movie called Reanimator that we're going to watch. And then another one was, hey, we've got this new zombie movie called Day of the Dead. So I got to see those before, I didn't go out with her long because those are the only 2 movies I got to see. But
she just stayed with her for longer.
Yeah, well,
just saying.
I know. I drank too much back then. Yeah, I sucked at it.
10:34.
It's later.
And I work at a funeral home, so I do have to be up early, but it's up to you guys. I can stay up as late as you want.
And that we didn't talk about, by the way. The Tim works at a funeral home.
Yes.
Oh,
I'm
like that would be Tim's dream job somehow.
It's actually a very, very nice job. It's not so much because creepy, morbid fuck. It's actually a really it really is like it's a very good job because you learn how to deal with people who just lost somebody. and you can help them through that. And then you prepare their loved ones and make them look like really presentable, which is like, as an artist, or I guess I can call myself that now.
You're
Like,
You've been told.
so when you're preparing features from dead, people that have deceased or died, I mean, that is a very artistic process. And there's a lot of very, interesting things you can do for that, to try to revise them to make them look as good as they once were. So it's actually a very good job, and I think it's calming. It's good not to do something that's film or art related, like in that aspect, all the time. So for me, I enjoy it very much.
So that kind of experience must. Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
I was just going to say this kind of experience must help with writing, with film ideas.
I already came up with one after my first 3 weeks, an idea, and I was like, this is kind of what it's like. I think I'll do this. So something down the road, maybe.
Yeah, even just the communicating with people when they're sort of at their lowest, I guess, or blackest times kind of thing.
And one of the people that I actually had cremated and took care of was effects artist Jeff Stover, who worked on Vile Prey. So he was that was hard, because I'm taking a friend to get cremated, and for me it was.
I'm not sure if that's like therapeutic or traumatic, but yeah,
it's comforting to know that he was with somebody that was one of his friends that helped him.
Yeah, I can see where you're going.
Because he was a cool guy. He was always joking about, like, if he died, he'd be like, just throw me on the lawn or do this or that. I'm like,
take a little bit of them. And
I'm like, I'm not gonna let that happen to you. So yeah.
Well, that's interesting. Yeah, at one point I was going to ask you if you had a day job like the rest of us, but that's
it.
Yeah. Right on. No, okay. Well, now you got my. I'm going to ask you one more question, and then we'll wrap it up here on that. I mean, are you a mortician, or are you? I mean, do you do?
I'm in training actually right now, because I'm going back to university next year at some point to go in for embalming. So I'm going to become an embalmer. But right now I'm assisting for funeral directing. So I'm learning how the whole process works, because what I'm doing is I want to learn every aspect of that business, because I like it and I enjoy it. So I just want to learn how everything works, so that when I get to that point, I'm ready for it. And, it's been very enlightening, and and the nice part about my job is, all the people I work with are amazing. So it's a cool day job. It's not one of those 9 to 5 where you're punching a clock at a desk, and because I couldn't do that all the time. That got painful after a while. I mean, I was doing that when I was working on Pharisee, and it wasn't fun. So, I mean,
I think
it's way better.
I think that we're all lucky that, because I own a video production company, and that's what I do. That's my day job. So I'm kind of doing that, and then I make movies when I can, and then Itai is kind of the same. I mean, I know he'd like to be making more movies, but at the same time, but that's cool that you're doing something that also, maybe it's not related to the filmmaking or the acting part of it, but it's cool that you enjoy it, because that doesn't happen often.
Yeah,
it doesn't happen often.
Plus, in a few years, I think Tim's gonna, reboot Reanimator, using all of his experience.
Please don't.
I don't even think you could do that.
only as a documentary.
As a documentary,
hey.
Yeah, it'll be a real life. Oh man.
Okay, picture it. I have this idea.
Here it comes.
I have access to dead bodies.
Okay, and with that, what we're going to do. Oh man. All right. Well, we have come to the end of our conversation with Tim. And Tim, if people want to get a hold of you, how do they find you, and how do they find your films if they want to look those up?
My films, definitely. Me, I like to say hidden. But no, my films, the Novotarian Syndicate on YouTube. I'm on Twitter, Facebook, obviously. My films are through Mindy Productions, Angerman distribution right now. And let's see, what else? There's a lot of other things, I think. But definitely check out. Oh yeah, go ahead.
Brimstone is on Brimstone Incorporated is on Tubi or Plex.
Yeah, actually, Ragmork, Brimstone, and yeah, her name is Christopher. I think they're on Tubi. I'm pretty sure. I know Ragmork's on Tubi.
Yeah, Ragmork is everywhere. Yeah.
Yeah. So if you Google me, you'll find stuff.
And St. Gabriel coming soon. I can't wait to see that character.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that myself.
Is it Tom Tom?
Tom Kelly. Thomas Kelly. He goes by Tom Kelly because that's his. I had a backstory for that name too, because I don't know if I can't remember if I came up with it or Derek, but it was like, why did they call him Tom Kelly? Because that's the sound it makes whenever he enters a room. It sounds like a tom because he's shooting people. So,
see, an actor that thinks about their character. Don't get that too often anymore. And Itai, if they want to find us, how do they find us?
Look and you shall find. We're everywhere. Mindy Productions, Facebook, Mindy Productions website. We are on Instagram. We're on Twitter, and of course, the Straight Shooters. We are on Facebook, on Instagram, and the email address that is, I think, above my head somewhere.
Located right above your head. Yes.
maybe.
All right. So thanks again, Tim, for hanging out with us on this episode of the Straight Shooter Show. Ladies and gentlemen, do us a favor, like, comment, share, subscribe. One more time. Like, comment, share, subscribe. Like, comment, share, subscribe. That really helps us out, and we appreciate you all watching. Once again, Tim, thanks for joining us. On behalf of Itai and myself, I'd like to just thank you all for watching, and we will see you next time right here on the Straight Shooter Show.